Hello, this is Professor White. Today we will look at inverse sine. Make sure that you watch the graph of sine before you watch this video. We are going to start with the graph of sine function for one period. Here's my sine function for one period. It goes from 0 to 2 pi. Now, to take the inverse of that sine, I need to have a one-to-one function. What was the requirement for a one-to-one function? It has to pass the horizontal line test. This is not passing it. So, I will do a trick. So, if you look at the sine function, y equals sine x, the domain of sine x is actually negative infinity to infinity, and the range of sine x is negative 1 to 1. This is your negative 1. This is 1. But if I look at the entire domain, the sine is repeating itself. It fails the horizontal line test. So I do a trick. I go, okay, well, I'm going to limit my sine function into this region. Remember, it just repeats to the left and right, and this is actually pi over 2, and this is actually negative pi over 2. So instead of looking at the entire sine, if I look at the negative pi over 2 to pi over 2, then I can take the inverse because it is one-to-one in that region. So let's write down what y, when y equals to sine inverse of x. Make sure that you understand sine inverse of x is not 1 over sine x. Okay? So remember that, because 1 over sine x is actually sine x to the negative 1 power. Do you see it where the negative 1 is? So do not mix these two up. Okay. Now, remember, when you take the inverse, your domain becomes range, your range becomes domain. So how does that work? So domain of sine inverse is going to be then the range of sine, so it's going to be negative 1 to 1. And the range of sine inverse is going to be the domain. But remember what we did with the domain? We limited it to negative pi over 2 to pi over 2. All right, so that is what needs to happen. And for the inverse answer will always give you an angle, and that angle will always be in this region, negative pi over 2 to pi over 2. Okay, now let's draw the sine function with our graphing calculator. Here we go. Here's my sine function. This point is negative pi over 2 and negative 1. This point is pi over 2 and 1. Now, remember how it works with the inverse functions. They have to be reflected along y equals x. So here's my y equals x. Then my inverse sine has to look something like this. All right? What will happen to the coordinates? The coordinates are going to switch around. 1, pi over 2. Negative 1, negative pi over 2. Let's summarize. This is sine x. This is sine inverse of x. And what will it look like when you draw it in your graphing calculator? It will look something like this. Here we go. Okay? And that is the picture of your inverse sine. All right. Now, let's do some exercises. What is sine inverse of negative rad 3 over 2? You're going to start with what sine gives me rad 3 over 2 answer. Do you remember that from the table? I know that when I have this degree, and that degree was, it was pi over 3, sine of pi over 3 is that 3 over 2. But that's not what I want. I want negative that 3 over 2. What does that mean? That will be, sine is negative where? So sine is positive here and negative here. So sine, it's going to be right here then. This angle is going to give me negative rad 3 over 2. But the problem is I need to limit it to negative pi over 2 to pi over 2. So I need to look at this angle this way, because this is negative pi over 2, this is pi over 2. So this angle, when you look at it that way, is going to have a reference angle of pi over 3, but you have to write this angle, since it's going clockwise, as a negative angle. So the answer to that is negative pi over 3. Let's do another one. You can do a positive one if you want. What is inverse sine of rad 2 over 2? So you have to again think, what angle gives me sine of rad 2 over 2? So I know that sine of 45 degrees is rad 2 over 2. And since I have no problem with the negative, and 45 degrees is in this region, so the answer is simply pi over 4. How do you use the sine inverse button in your calculator? So let's save this, and I'll go to my calculator, and let's do that negative rad 3 over 2 question. And remember how it was negative pi over 3. And let's go and do this problem. So I'm going to take the sine. Okay, first you have to you have to look at the mode. The mode is in degree. So when I take the inverse, it's going to give me a degree answer. But I want a radian answer. So go and pick the radian. So you are going to go and pick sine inverse of negative rad 3 over 2. Okay, it gave me negative pi over 3. Okay, so when you, if you don't remember, this is actually negative pi over 3. What you can do, you can multiply by pi. Okay, and what does that look like? What is that? Okay, you multiply that by pi. That is actually all right. When you multiply this by pi, you got a number that is the just let's not do this. It's going to be, just let's do it in degree so that you're clear about how this works. Let's take the negative sine inverse of that. So I'm going to set this in the degree mode. Okay, and then I'm going to take the sine inverse. So let's go do that. Sine inverse of negative rad 3 over 2. All right, and that will give you negative 60. I think that's a lot easier than just fiddling around with your decimals. All right, anyway, so just go and know how the graphing works of sine inverse, and then know that how you can use it in the radian or degree mode when you use your calculator.